start.
Okay, so I'm going to start from ayat number 60. So I'll first read the starting dua. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي رب يسر ولا تؤثر وتمن بالخير اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا وأنت تجعل الحزن إذا شئت سهلا اللهم انفعني بما علمتني وعلمني ما ينفعني وزدني علما آمين يا رب العالمين. So if we see the last 2-3 ayahs, we learned that the Jews, the Bani Israel, were blessed with the food of manna salwa, which was the food directly given from the heavens. So now this is a continuation of that story from where ayat 60 starts. Ayat 60. And when Moses asked for water for his people, so we said, strike your stick to the rock. Then they gushed from it 12 springs. Each tribe of people knew their drinking place. Eat and drink from what provision of Allah, and do not make mischief in the world, spreading corruption. So the continuation is because in Manasalva, people had got like the nutrients that are necessary for a human. So they got all the carbohydrates, proteins, and stuff. But now one more important element for a person to live was left, which is water. So so Hazrat Musa asked Allah, and if we see in Quran, this ayah has the word istisqa. Istisqa is a word that is specifically used only for Allah. For example, istighfar is also used only for Allah and to ask forgiveness. Same way, istisqa was used by Hazrat Musa for asking Allah Ta'ala for water for their tribe. And Allah Ta'ala then commanded Hazrat Musa to strike his stick over a rock, and they came 12 springs gushing. So why were there 12 springs? Because there were 12 tribes. And if you read history, or if there is, if we have some concept of Arab or the nature of Jews, so this water, if they did not have 12 different springs, this might have turned into a dispute or a conspiracy. The tribes might fight with each other, thinking that they got a spring but we didn't. So Allah Ta'ala gave 12 different springs for 12 different tribes so that they could get water and they could get all the nutrients they need. And this is the greatness of Allah. And Allah then commanded that take advantage of the provisions I give you and worship me, and do not get into any kind of mischievous activity. So does anyone want to add anything into this?
Can I add something?
Yes.
Actually, why were there 12 groups? Actually, there were 12 groups because there were 12 children of Yahya alayhi salam. So there were 12 groups.
Oh, okay. Right. Thank you for adding into it.
Each son had his own group. I mean, tribe.
Okay. Thank you. I wasn't aware of it. Thank you. Okay, so the next ayah 61. And when you said, O Moses, we can never endure upon one kind of food. So call upon your Lord for us that he brings forth for that which the earth grows, for its herbs and its cucumbers and its corn and its lentils and its onions. He said, would you exchange that which is lower to which is better? Go down to a settled country that indeed you will that which you asked for. And they covered with humiliation and misery, and they drew into themselves with wrath from Allah that was because, okay, so this is a long translation, so I would break it into two parts. So basically what Rasulullah, and then as the time went by, the people of Hazrat Musa, they wanted more. They were not grateful of what they were getting, and instead of being grateful to what Allah is giving them, which is the sacred food that is coming from heaven, which was not blessed to any other nation except Hazrat Musa. They wanted more variety of food, and they started asking Hazrat Musa that we are bored of this food and we want something new, and we want all the food which is described in the ayah, lentils and onions and cucumbers. Basically, this food was a food that was given to them in Egypt, and Egypt is where they lived before, and they were into the slavery of Pharaoh. So basically, they were denying a food which was given to them in freedom, and wanting to go back into the present life where they would get the present food, and they were showing no appreciation to what Allah is sending them. And instead of that, they're wanting variety of food. This is where it comes, where we should know that we should be grateful to Allah and not actually, and be grateful to Allah about of what Allah Ta'ala gives us, and not thinking about what don't we have, and getting back into a time where humiliation and slavery was them for them. So this is something. This is a lesson we should take, not to be ungrateful for what Allah gives to us. This is what's explained into the ayah. And then after that, Allah Ta'ala is saying that would you actually leave something which is blessed from the heavens and go back to a time where you were slaves and you were humiliated? And this is an example of not appreciating Allah's blessings. Does anyone want to add into this?
No.
Okay. Um, okay, so the next ayah is, one second. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. Can you please explain Moses?
Moses is basically the English way to say Hazrat Musa. We're talking about Hazrat Musa's time. So basically, Hazrat Musa's translation in English has been given Moses. So this is the story of Hazrat Musa's time going on right now. Okay, so
Okay.
are you clear with it?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So ayat 62, verily those who believe and those who are Jews and Christians and Sabians, whoever believes in Allah and the last day and does righteous good deeds shall have their reward with their Lord. On them shall be no fear, nor shall they grieve. So this is a very straightforward message to which Allah Ta'ala is giving to all the people, in which so now how he has mentioned Jews and Christians and Sabians, basically he's talking about all the people in all the religions, that if they're righteous to Allah, if they believe in Allah, and if they have faith on the last day, they will surely be given the reward of it, and they would be given the reward of the good deeds they do in this world, the way they worship Allah, and the way they have fear of the last day. And because in this world, if we have the fear of the last day and Allah, in the hereafter we would not be having any fear, because Allah will be with us, and we know that we have did good deeds, and Allah Ta'ala will give a reward to us, and we won't be frightened of the day, which normally is frightening for the people who have disbelieved in this real world. So Allah Ta'ala here is telling us to do good deeds in order to be successful in the hereafter. Would anybody like to add anything?
As you said, it is really straightforward.
Yeah. Okay. So the next ayah. Now in this ayah, a new story is starting. Okay. So verily those. No, sorry. Okay. And O children of Israel, remember when we took your covenant and we raised above the mount, saying, hold fast to that which we have given you, and remember that which is there, so that you might be al-muttaqun. So basically, Misakum is a word which is used for an agreement which is done with a lot of responsibility, and you have a lot of you sign that agreement, or you have that agreement with Allah. This agreement was done from the Jews with Allah, with a lot of responsibility, and this is a very important agreement. What was this? This was done by lifting a mountain over the Jews' head. Now, there are different opinions about this. People have been saying the mountain may not have been raised over them. The mountain may have been raised over them. There are different opinions about how the mountain was involved in the story, but we should not go up to there. We should go and see the real point. Basically, the mountain was over them, or there was a mountain over them, and Allah Ta'ala had asked the people to promise for worshipping Allah and keep safe the teachings of the book which was revealed to them, which is Torah, and follow the teachings that Allah has sent you. And Jews promised to remain loyal to what they have agreed on. But then because this was in the Jews' nature, they did not take this message seriously, and they forgot about what they agreed with Allah, which is something they didn't stay loyal to it. But then still Allah Ta'ala did not leave them alone, and because if Allah Ta'ala left them alone, there would have been a big there would have been a big azab on them. So they did disbelieve, although they shouldn't have, being in an agreement which is very, very important. And because the word misak is used, so this means how loyal or how responsible a person should be while being into an agreement with Allah Ta'ala directly. Okay, so does anyone want to add into this?
Nope.
Okay. So ayah 64. Then after that you turned away. Had it not been for the grace of mercy of Allah upon you, indeed you would have been among the losers. Okay, I just went through the chat. Is my voice clear right now?
It is for me.
Yeah, it's for me too.
Okay. So is it now audible, my voice? Because right now I just read the chat and the voice, I just read that the voice isn't audible. Is it fine right now?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Ayah 64. Then after that you turned away. Had it not been for the grace of mercy of Allah upon you, indeed you would have been among the losers. So likewise, I explained this in the last ayah, that despite of being into an agreement which carries a lot of responsibility, they betrayed Allah, and they did not stay loyal to the agreement. They did things which made them happy, and they did not worship Allah Ta'ala the way we should, or a believer should worship Allah Ta'ala. But still Allah Ta'ala did not leave them alone. He tried to support them, even though they were loyal. They were not loyal to the agreement made with Allah Ta'ala. And if Allah Ta'ala would have showed anger, there would be a big azab on them. So in this, we should, from this ayah, we learn how we should stay loyal to what we promise, whether it's to someone else or if directly with Allah. We should worship Allah, and we should not break any form of promise. Does anyone want to add into this?
You can go on.
Okay. 65. And indeed you knew those amongst you. I can hear my voice back.
I can hear it twice too.
Okay, so now it's fine. And indeed, you knew those amongst you who transgressed in the matter of the Sabbath. We said to them, "Be you monkeys, despised and rejected." So in this ayah, basically, wait, I think I skipped the ayah. Sorry, ayah 64. Oh no, I did not. Okay. So now the story behind this ayah is basically Allah Ta'ala is recalling. So these are different events that took place in the life of during the time period. So now this is one more story in which Jews did not be loyal to what Allah Ta'ala what they promised to Allah Ta'ala. So Allah Ta'ala commanded them that they should not, there should be a day in a week which was Saturday, where they should be that they should only be dedicated to deen and religion, and they should worship Allah and leave all the worldly activities, be it preparing for your food or going for a job or any form of worldly activity that distracts a human from worshipping Allah Ta'ala. And Allah Ta'ala commanded them to worship, and that day was Saturday. So this was kind of a loss for Jews, because this is the day when they would get a lot of profit from what they buy or sell. And specifically, this ayah, the seed is more in Surah Araf, but I would just give a small explanation. So the Jews would do fishing for their income, and on Saturday it was a day where a lot of fish were on the seashore, and they would fish a lot, and they could get a lot of money, or they could get food. But then, as Allah Ta'ala's commands, they could not do anything. This made them feel that they have a lot of loss. So they kind of made a plan to have a net on the side of the shore, so that the next day they worship, and then on Sunday, for example, on Sunday, they would come and take all the fish. So Allah Ta'ala here is saying that there's no one who can challenge me, and you cannot play with whatever whatever I command you to. So in that anger, because the Jews betrayed into that promise, Allah Ta'ala turned them into monkeys. And why did he turn them into monkeys? Because Allah Ta'ala wanted to show how a human, how Allah Ta'ala can transform someone into something that's not a worth of. Because so here Allah Ta'ala just shows us how Allah Ta'ala can get his anger into anything. And because they disbelieved Allah Ta'ala's message and order, they in return Allah Ta'ala turned them into monkeys, and a sign of humiliation. So does anyone want to add into this?
No.
Yes, it is like Allah was testing them on Saturdays.
Yes, Allah was testing them.
Allah was testing them. That's why He put all the fishes on Saturday at the top, at the shore of the sea.
Yes, and because they were ordered to only worship. So Allah Ta'ala had to test their faith, and whether they would worship Allah or whether they would take their own advantage and go and take the fishes and get their advantage, or would they worship Allah and spend time and sacrifice their own needs for Allah. But then they took advantage of the fish being available, and in return Allah Ta'ala put them into azab and turned them into a sign of humiliation. Okay, so moving on to the next ayah. So we made this punishment an example of their own and to succeeding generations as a lesson to those who are muttaqun. So basically, as I said, that this was made a sign of humiliation, and this was a lesson for them as well as for us or anyone reading Quran, so that we stay loyal to Allah, we worship Allah, and we be obedient to Allah. Because if they were turned into monkeys, or they were turned into something which is very humiliating, or which is an azab, Allah Ta'ala can get angry over us, and we can also be given any azab may Allah forbid us from any kind of punishment, because we know Allah's anger can go up to any level, and may Allah protect us from His anger. Okay, Ayah 67. And when Musa said to his people, "Verily Allah commands you that you slaughter a cow," they said, "Do you make fun of us?" He said, I take Allah's refuse from being among al-jahilun. Okay, so now another story is starting. So this is the story through which this surah was named Al-Baqarah. Al-Baqarah means the calf. So now Hazrat Musa, Allah Ta'ala commanded Hazrat Musa to tell his people to slaughter a cow. Now, at this point, this was a normal and ordinary cow. They could have slaughtered any cow, but then now, as we proceed into the ayahs, we'll get to know the purpose of slaughtering into the cow. But Jews did not want to slaughter the cow, and they started answering back to Hazrat Musa, saying, "Why are you making fun of us?" But Hazrat Musa said that I am just telling you what my Lord commanded you. So I'm just a messenger. This is what Allah is commanding you to do. So slaughter a cow. So now, for prolonging this, because they internally did not want to slaughter a cow, they started asking more questions, which is not something we should do. In Islam, we should not ask more questions. We should just do what's commanded once, and we should not answer back or question back of what Allah commands us. But they were doing this. So the next ayah, they said, yes.
Why? So I would like to answer why they didn't like to slaughter a cow, because they actually made a calf idol, right? So that was still in their mind, and so they didn't want to slaughter a cow. And the reason that Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala ordered to slaughter a cow is, a person was killed, and and people were fighting fighting to find the criminal. So Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala told Musa alayhi salam, ordered Musa alayhi salam to slaughter the cow and take one of the meat piece from the cow and put it on the dead man's head, I guess, maybe. And
Yes.
then they said that, yeah.
Yes, this is exactly the story. I was going to explain this as the ayahs would proceed, but thank you for sharing it. This is exactly what the story will be as you go on. Thank you, Hiba. Okay, so the next ayah, they said, "Call upon your Lord for us, and he may make plain to us what it is." He says, "Verily it is a cow neither too old nor too young, but it is between the two conditions. So do what you're commanded." So as I said, the Jews, it was in their nature to prolong or to try to avoid not slaughtering, because they knew that there is a truth behind what Allah Ta'ala will disclose. So here now they're asking more questions so that it prolongs, and it's in their nature to question back. So they asked, give us something more specific about the cow. And then Allah Ta'ala answered back that the cow shouldn't be too old nor too young, but it should be within those two requirements given. So do what you're commanded. So now, as we read that from an ordinary cow, it's moving into a cow which is not too old nor too young. And now they're making this more difficult for themselves. And Allah Ta'ala commanded, give them one condition. So as we move on, we get to know more conditions because they were questioning back again and again. Okay, so they said, the next ayah 69, they said, "Call upon your Lord for us to make us plain for us to make plain to us its color." He said, it is a yellow cow, bright in its color, pleasing the beholders. So now cows are normally white normally white, but now they made it harder for themselves, and Allah Ta'ala specified it into a color which normally is not, which normal cows are not found into this. He said that the cow should be in yellow, bright yellow color, which is normally not the color a normal cows find. So now this is making it harder for them to find, and now the color is also specified. So moving on to the next ayah, they said, "Call upon your Lord for us to make His plain, for verily to all cows are alike, and surely if Allah wills, we will be guided." So now they're asking for more specific information for the cow, and they said this is too ordinary of a detail for the cow. We need something more that's specific, so that we can find the right cow and slaughter. But actually, they did not want to find the right cow. They were just prolonging this so that the truth can be hidden. But but Allah Ta'ala knows all the truth, and if He planned to disclose the truth, He will. And then Allah Ta'ala in the next ayah makes it more specific. Ayah 71, He says, "It is a cow neither trained or to till or the soil nor water the field, sound, having no other color except bright yellow." They said, "Now you have brought the truth." So they slaughtered it, though they were not near to doing it. So now Allah Ta'ala gave a whole specific list of cow in which he should not be someone who is trained to till the soil, or not someone who's used to water the farm, because cow at that time was used a lot in farms. So that specific cow which should be slaughtered should not be in any of the farm activities. Its color should not be except yellow, and it should not be too old or too young. So now, as you see, from an ordinary cow, it turned into a cow which is it's very hard to find. And the Jews managed to, and then the Jews were like, okay, now we know what specific cow we should get. Although this is not something they should do, we should not ask back or question back, but still they questioned back, and they were like, okay, now we can find the specific cow and slaughter. Although they didn't want to slaughter, they found the specific cow and they slaughtered the cow. And then the next ayah. Okay, so does someone want to add into this?
Yeah, I want to say that, you know, how even Muslims today, they always question Allah's commands and be like, why should I do this? It doesn't even seem that wrong. It's just, you know, it's wrong because um the Bani Israel, they got punished for questioning his command, okay? And although they didn't want to,
Yes.
it just shows that today Muslims, when they question it, it means that they don't want to obey him, which is like utterly wrong. So that's just all I had.
Yes. Yes, exactly. So they internally did not want to slaughter the cow because they knew something is wrong. But that's why they kept asking. So we should not just keep asking. We should listen to the command that's given at the first place from Allah. Okay. So ayah 72. And remember when you killed a man and fell into dispute among yourselves as to the crime, but Allah brought forth for which you were hiding. So now, as Hiba mentioned before, the story in which they found this made a cow, they started worshipping a cow, and then in this incident, a man was killed. So Allah Ta'ala had to disclose the truth because there were people blaming each other about who murdered the man. So Allah Ta'ala had to disclose this truth, and this is how He did. The cow that was slaughtered was was used to identify the real murderer of the person. And Allah Ta'ala then then showed why did Allah Ta'ala want a cow to be slaughtered, so that the Jews at the end cannot, like, they are helpless, and they don't have any chance to run away from from the truth. And that's why Allah Ta'ala told the purpose of slaughtering a cow after the cow was slaughtered. So we said, strike him, the dead man, with a piece of it, the cow. Thus Allah brings the dead of life and shows his ayah, evidences, verses, lessons, signs, revelations, so that you may understand. So now they were instructed to strike the dead man and put a piece of the cow which was slaughtered over them. And then the murderer who actually murdered the person was the first of all, the person who was dead was brought alive. The person who was killed, he mentioned his murderer, and then he went into and died back, and hence the murderer was known. So when Allah Ta'ala plans to disclose the truth, nobody can change it, and in any way that truth will be disclosed. This is a lesson for us, and this is a lesson that we should not lie, or we should not try to hide the truth, because at the end Allah will show the truth. Allah will disclose all the truth and the lie, and the false that has been hidden will come out one day. Yeah, that's all my ayahs. Does someone want to add into this if I missed anything?
If someone does, they can do now. Because I'm gonna share the ending dua.
Yeah, I
I
wanna
don't have
say not.
anything.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I don't want to say something. I want to say something about the lesson which I learned today from these verses. One lesson. I want to just share one lesson. I feel that very interesting. Whenever we feel something very tempted, like that in this surah, in this ayah, some of these ayah, we learn that we feel more tempted. Some things, now, and some things feel more tempted, but they are forbidden for us, now. So what happened in these nowadays? What happened where I feel tempted, like these some things I feel more attractive, like singing songs or listening songs, or like sometimes I wanna show my dressing or anything else, like these types of things, and I feel hard to not do these things. But actually they are forbidden. I shouldn't listen songs. I shouldn't show my dressing or my tired face or like that. But sometimes I feel like, oh, I'm looking too beautiful today. So I want to show my face or like these things, other and many other things, like I want to do something, some other things, like I have some branding thing. I bought some branded things and I want to show others too that look what I got today. But what and I feel very hard to avoid this thing, to show these things to other, because in Islam we shouldn't show anything to others now, like a purpose of showing off like that. It's not for us Muslims, it's not for anybody. We shouldn't do this now. But I feel hard to avoid these things. So what what should I think what should I keep in our mind, that no, that's why I'm feeling difficult to avoid this thing, because Shaitan now make tempted it for me to he wants me to show it. That's why he wants me to commit a sin like these things. So that's why I feel very difficult to avoid these things. That's why I should these things, any other things. If I am doing any other things, like anything, I should keep in mind why it is feeling hard for me. Why it is hard for me to avoid these things. Why these things are very hard for me now. Just and actually it is forbidden in Islam. That's why. So I think I should always keep that in mind. That's why I should avoid, because in this verse I learned today that yes, Shaitan is making tempting these things, and Allah also testing us, because this world is this world. Every time we are giving a test now, every time, every second we are giving a test, because this world is a test for a Muslim. So yes, we are in a state of test every time. That's why we are testing a test everywhere. So yes, I
Yeah.
should keep in that mind. I think, and this I too learned this. That's why I feel interested. I want to share my feeling with you, and I think you all understand.
Yes. Yeah, that's what I also wanted to say, that I did 13 verses today, but then these 13 verses included 4 different incidents that happened with Jews. But the purpose was because Jews had their own demands and their own worldly habits, and this they could not pass the test that Allah Ta'ala has put us all in. uh, that uh, that's why they were given some kind of punishment, which we should take lesson as, because personally we are also into some we might also have some interest which is forbidden, but we are tested for it. We are tested for a reason. So this is actually the lesson that Sumaya Imran just shared. So yeah. Does anyone else want to add anything?
I don't. If anyone else has, they can do now. If not, I'll share the duas.
I think you can share the duals now.
Yeah.
Okay. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم سبحان ربك والعزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك صدق الله العظيم.
Jazakallah.
Jazakallah.
بارك الله فيك.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everyone.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa
وعليكم
barakatuh.
السلام.
Wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.